It's showtime! Let's go! Let's go!
Yo, 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 what is going on, my Patriot peeps? It's me, Soor, your full-time scientist, fuller-time sports fan, and I'm here back with my guy, Aiden, as we recap the rarest of occurrences these days. A Patriots win against the Jets. Talk to me. How are you feeling?
I'm glad we got the win. That's about all I'm feeling. I don't think it wasn't a convincing, like, awesome win. I don't know if there's still a ton of good to take away, but I mean, a win's a win, so I'll take that.
Yeah, I think, for the thing that made me happy about this game is that the Patriots often lose games like this, games where they're in the last minute, like one with a lot of lead changes, but then just barely fall short. So for me, that was the thing. Like, the Patriots, it felt like they had been creating almost like a losing culture where they kept getting close in games and not winning, and it was just they were getting used to it. And the one thing that I don't want to happen to a franchise like this is the kind of thing that happens to some of the lower tier franchises in the NFL of getting used to losing, creating a losing culture. And so a win like this is really important in that sense of you give yourself the confidence to know as a franchise you can win these kinds of games where you're not playing your best football. But yeah, as you said, not a lot went well. But in a way, that's another positive, right? You can play at times some pretty bad football and still win football games in this league.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was for sure lucky, but sometimes luck's all you need, and in this case, I'll take the luck over the beautiful game plan and gameplay that we had.
Right, because we've had games this season, last season, like the season before, where it felt like we came in with the right intentions. It felt like we had our moments and then didn't win. The Seattle game is the biggest example I can think of in this season, but it's important to show that you can get over the line, especially for team morale. People are questioning Mayo's job, all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, looking at the game, what went well, what didn't go well, what could have gone better.
Yeah, so like initially Drake May looked like he was starting off again on fire. Like, I thought he was going to have a great game. Got hurt, and then Brissett came in and like played surprisingly pretty well. Like, actually moved the ball down the field. Looked like he was capable of like leading an offense. Like, he looked like a different Brissett than we've seen the first few weeks. So I'll actually say Brissett, like, coming in relief of May, was pretty good. The bad was our receivers were so bad. Like, this was disgusting with like how many drops that we've had, just hitting guys in the hands or hitting them straight in the chest, and like even some of the little tougher contested catches that are catchable, like they just weren't coming down with anything. So it was frustrating because I mean Brissett was throwing some nice passes, and there were definitely some catchable balls that were just missed. And I mean, even Drake May at the beginning of the game too, like that deep one to Thornton was like, that would have been a good momentum like changer, and it just hits him right off his shoulder pads right in the front.
Yeah.
And then Matt, I think, like we were talking about before, but I'd just say the defense. Like, the defense did their job, but there was no like big stops or like no turnovers that were like, I don't think we had any turnovers actually. So I mean, they were okay, but it wasn't like, yeah, it was just meh.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I feel like for me, the good was, I felt like, I mean, mentality. I think the way they played the big moments, being able to being able to go through a couple lead changes and being able to engineer drives in big moments was a big thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
I think the defense, the way the defense played, overall, I thought this was a big step up from the defense. I think there was still stuff to work on. Like, for instance, I think the defense needs to be more aggressive after the ball, need more turnovers, need more pass breakups. But I thought we did a great job of limiting the efficacy of the Jets offense. Aaron Rodgers looked much more pedestrian, especially when you compare it to the first game, right? Like, when you're looking at a team that's probably not going to make the playoffs, you look for incremental improvement. Right. And we compare this game to the first game against the Jets, and it was improved on all fronts.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually going to say good, the offensive line on the good category. Because they played they played beyond what I thought that group was capable of playing. Not much penetration into the backfield. I did think, the running game didn't play well in terms of like getting a lot of yards per carry, but they were all able to get steady gains and able to, they were able to get 3 rushing touchdowns, 10 first downs created by rushing, able to get the quarterback run game in there as well. Like, the offensive line paved the way for the team to be able to actually run their offense. And that's really been the problem. We couldn't even tell for the longest time what this Patriots offense is, because they just didn't have the time to run it. And I felt like both May and Brissett were able to run the kind of offense that they like to run. And so I'm definitely going to place them in the good category. Bad, yeah, receivers. Absolute train wreck. It's frustrating when your quarterback is creating these kinds of good looks. I had said last week that we need to put in Thornton to be able to see what he looks like with May. And I was right that we needed to see that, because we got proof of 2 things. Yeah, Thornton's speed is a real weapon because of his ability to get separation on some of these routes, but his hands make that weapon pointless. It's frustrating. You have a guy that's this fast, this agile, able to outrun almost any corner, but it doesn't matter. And this isn't the first time Tyquan Thornton's dropped a gimme deep pass. There's a reason that he hasn't been playing all that much, even when he's healthy. And then, a week after reports come out of him wanting the ball, Booty drops a couple of balls. And to be fair, he made up for it. He made a couple of great throws late in the game. And so, but he still did drop a couple of gimmies. And then, in the most unlikely of things, like a receiver that's had one of the best catch rates in the NFL year after year, Kendrick Bourne even dropped passes. I don't know what's happening mentally, and I don't know what Troy Brown is doing in terms of coaching the group. I feel like I'm looking there because obviously I think this team needs more talent at the wide receiver position, but at the same time, you've got players, once Kendrick Bourne, a player that has played well in a Patriots uniform before, played really well last season until he got injured, played really well the year before, played really well the year before. At that point, you have to start looking at the coaching staff and wonder what's going on in practice. And you also look at Javon Baker saw his first real NFL action, but they only had him return a kick. And it begs the question, do you really see enough from the other wide receivers that you should be keeping him out? Like, unless he's just sucker punching people at practice or something, the receiver play we have right now is just not good enough to keep a 4th round pick out.
Yeah, I mean, and our receivers just aren't good. Like, what's the harm in throwing him out there? Like, if he got in trouble, it's like, okay, like, you proved, or you showed him his lesson or whatever, right? Like, the guy needs to get experience at some point. I'm pretty sure all the times he's missed the games were all healthy scratches. I don't think he's battling an injury or anything as far as I've heard. So yeah, at this point, it's like, is Tyquan Thornton like really that much better of an option, or like is Javon Baker like I don't see how he just sucks all of a sudden. Like he had a great training camp. That doesn't mean he's gonna be a good player, but it's like I think we saw enough in training camp to be like, okay, give this guy a shot on the field, just see what he and May can do.
Yeah, no, I'm fully with you there.
And I don't get it. I don't get it. I thought for sure too that like it would be his chance to do something with Polk out, and it's like, nope. Like,
yeah, that's the thing. You're shorthanded at wide receiver. The players on the field are not playing very well.
Mm-hmm.
Why not try something new? But yeah, I think it's interesting when I actually look at the game and I look at a stat sheet and I think about how every individual player played. Like pretty ugly win, and we've played better football this year at times. At least in isolation, in each of the phases, we've had individual games where each of these things have gone well. But what we hadn't had is cohesion, where the offense does its job at the same time where the defense does its job at the same time where the special teams do their job, and there's like relative harmony between running and passing and just sensible play calling, and everything made sense as far as what the Patriots were doing. They had a plan, especially on that last drive. They had a clear game plan that they executed to try to go march down the field and win the game. They handled the goal line situations well. The red zone offense was honestly my favorite thing. They actually were able to convert drives into touchdowns that they hadn't been able to do in the past.
Right.
So in that sense, there's a lot of good to look at. Now, we did see an unfortunate development. What did you think? What did you think of May's injury? What does that do for the season and the outlook looking forward?
From what I've heard and seen, like I think the Patriots are just playing it safe. It looked like May like really wanted to go back out on the field. Mayo didn't seem too concerned with the injury. So I don't think he'll really miss much time. Hopefully not. At most, I'm not a doctor, but at most it would be like a game or two, I'd assume. Again, considering like he wasn't really down that long. He came back in and played a couple of plays, and then I think they just took him out again just with the NFL's concussion protocol just being so strict. It seemed like they wanted to just play it safe.
Yeah. I saw it the same way, and I'm in a way I'm glad that May was able to be on the sidelines and see Jacoby Brissett do what he did, because I felt like it was a really good example of veterans' resilience. My takeaway from that injury though was just that it's another cautionary tale of we need to do more on the offensive line end of things. We need to give May a good line, because it doesn't matter how talented he is if we can't keep him in the game.
And I mean that tackle was on a scramble, I think. So I don't think it was on the line, but I don't think it really plays that big of a deal also in the future, just the injury, because like so many people would be like, well, like this is why you rest him until like this is better and this is better. And it's like, that's so dumb. Like you don't bench your star players like if you're in a losing season just because you want to keep them healthy. Like nobody does that, rookie or not. So I don't think it'll have a big impact, but I do think, yeah, the O-line for sure needs to get better, especially if this is like a significant head injury. It's like you want to make sure he stays more upright, because getting hit in the pocket or not, like his head's going to get whipped around a bit.
Yeah, and to some degree, he's gonna have to learn that discipline that every dual threat quarterback has to learn when they're going from college to the NFL of when do I slide, when do I prioritize my health, when do I lower my shoulder, like all those things, because it is just a huge jump in physicality from college. And
Right.
We've seen promising dual threat quarterbacks have their careers ruined because of injury.
Mm-hmm.
And so definitely learning how to manage that is big. And yeah, that particular injury isn't on the offensive line, but you look back at the last Jets game where both quarterbacks were getting hammered every single time they snapped the ball, and you just it's just a thing that it's just a reminder that these quarterbacks are not invincible. We don't want this to be another Tua Tagovailoa situation,
Right.
and if we don't want that, we need an offensive line that can protect the guy, because he's aggressive. He's going to run the ball. He's going to scramble. Let's not make him have to scramble every single play.
Right.
And I could see, as far as immediate impacts, like depending on how he's doing in practice, like I wouldn't complain if the Patriots wanted to set him another week and just really make sure, because it's not worth putting him out too early. But I don't think it needs to be any more than just one game, at least based on what the reports are saying.
And we got to see Caleb versus Drake. Like that has to happen.
Yeah, especially since you have tickets. I mean, but it's also exciting. You look at, I feel like, having just come from college football, these quarterbacks are probably excited. Like, oh, this is like, UNC versus North Carolina, USC versus North Carolina, like throwback to our glory days. It's fun when these kinds of matchups happen. I remember how excited I was when Jameis Winston and Mariota were matched up in week 1.
Yeah.
It's just fun.
It is fun.
Speaking of which, like, Jameis Winston is he should absolutely be the quarterback for the Browns moving forward.
He lit it up. I love him. He's so fun. You don't know what you're going to get.
He's a good guy. Like, not only is he the better player of the two, he's also not a dirtbag.
No, good teammate, good leader. Weird, but
very weird. Every time he gets behind a mic, you don't know what's going to come.
I know. Is he going to do his whole eat the W thing, or I have no idea.
That was my favorite. Steal some crab legs.
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah. And I know May is trying to be very Belichickian with his personality, but he can, if he wants to eat some W's and be his quirky self, he can do that. I'd like to see some more personality from May, much like we saw from Mac Jones in his first year with the Gritty.
Yeah, as long as he keeps it at the Gritty, I could do without the whining and pouting on the sidelines and stuff. But
yeah, absolutely. And I mean, his maturity is one of his best traits, so no need to go overboard there. But
I know, but a Drake made Gritty would be awesome. I think he'd probably do a better one than Mac Jones too. Mac Jones was not good.
No, it felt good because we were in that illusion of thinking that he was a good quarterback.
Yeah, I know. And we were all still, it was the honeymoon phase.
Yeah, which arguably at the time he was.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, again, another cautionary tale. Like, at this point of the season, in Mac Jones' rookie year, not only was Mac Jones playing well, the Patriots were in playoff position.
Mm-hmm.
It's still imperative that the Patriots do the right things around May to bring out the best in him.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of which, let's talk trade deadline. God, I love a good transition.
That was a good segue there.
And in the first news of the trade deadline, we had our first activity, but it's not quite what I was hoping for.
Mm-hmm.
Josh Uche traded the Chiefs for a 6th-round pick. What are your initial thoughts?
I feel like if we were going to trade him, we could have done a good bit more than a 6th. But I mean, it sounded like trading him was going to happen as far as I knew. But like a 6th isn't really much for like a solid edge rusher like Uche was. So I think again we could have gotten a lot more than a 6th. 6th is like I feel like just a bag of chips for the guy.
Absolutely. And I mean, he's been having a bit of a not a down season, but a bit of a quiet season this year,
Mm-hmm.
and that may be why his trade stock was low. But if his trade stock was going to be low, keep him and see how he can do the rest of the season and wait to trade him for later.
Mm-hmm.
It's like basic stock market. You don't trade when a player's stock is down. If a 6th is all you're going to fetch for him, might as well just have that talent on the field.
Yeah.
There's no point in trading a player that good to a conference rival for that kind of money. And it's frustrating because Uche is someone that I felt had a lot of promise, and he had that big year in 2022 where he was near the NFL leaderboard in sacks. And while he couldn't quite get back to that level, he had that potential and he had that versatility. There was enough there where you want to either see where he can go or get a haul for him.
Right. Yeah, I think it was just poor time, poor price tag. It was just it seemed very desperate.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a little, the Patriots don't have a lot of players that I would consider like great commodities right now. That's going to be one of the challenges this trade deadline. Mm-hmm. So when you have a player like Uche, which I felt has really good value for whatever team he could join, you just want to see the Patriots do more there. But there have been rumors that the Patriots are going to be buyers at the trade deadline. Where could you see them buying, and who would you like to see them buy?
Again, I think I've heard tackle and receivers, which I think both of those would be awesome. I mean, it kind of gets tricky of I guess I don't know who is on the market at this point. There's of course there's rumors about everything. I know, again, I've said T. Higgins a lot just because he's going to be a free agent next year. So it's like it's almost seems like the Bengals aren't going to sign him and he'll go somewhere else. So it's like you could still trade a little bit for him and then at least secure him and then sign to an extension. That would be my dream would be just trade for him. Tackle. Again, I don't really know. Again, who's on the trade block? I think Ronnie Stanley, I know will be a free agent, so he'd be kind of interesting. Kind of do the same thing that you do with Higgins. But I mean, it was interesting seeing Cam Robinson get traded today. Because what did he get traded to Minnesota for? Was a 4th or a 5th or something?
Yeah.
Which is we could have definitely done that. I don't know why we didn't do that. And it's just these good players getting traded away just kind of for middle to late round picks, which I don't know what we're doing, kind of just sitting here. Deontay Johnson for that 5th too was kind of wild because I'm sure every Patriot fan would love to have Deontay Johnson catching balls from Drake May and only lose a 5th round pick for it.
Yeah. No, I'm fully with you there. I made the same observation when I saw that he got traded to the Vikings. I just too many times there have been players where it feels like the perfect fit for New England go elsewhere for not that much. And I mean, I think the Patriots just need to be more aggressive. They need to be. There's an urgency. The players they want aren't just going to be sitting there waiting for them. One interesting rumor that I saw is that more of a report than a rumor that they've been getting calls for both KJ Osborne and Tyquan Thornton, and like nothing would make me happier. I don't think KJ Osborne's a great system fit. He's meant to be a player. He's meant to be a depth piece in teams that have really good receiving cores, which is why he works so well in Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think he has value to other. Like I think he's one of those players that has value to other franchises and doesn't here.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel the same way about Thornton. Maybe in the right system and with the right coaching, he can become the wide receiver that we want him to be for New England, that I thought he was going to be when he got drafted.
Mm-hmm.
He has the youth. He has like the youth element on his side. So you could see that potentially elevating his stock. I'd also, rather than just accumulating draft capital, I do want to see the Patriots do some player for player swaps, because especially in terms of their positions of need, especially since we don't trust their ability in the draft with wide receivers, they've missed time and time again. I would love to see a player swap in terms of, for receivers, and maybe you have to put in a couple of pieces there, or you have to chain a package with a receiver and a draft pick. But this is the kind of creativity you need to be able to get past all these other franchises. It's this trade deadline is a free for all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think I just want to see Mayo finally just like stick to his word for once. He was like, "Oh yeah," like beginning or right when we had like free agency. Yeah, we're gonna be aggressive. We're gonna be big buyers. And then he's like, "Well, no, I didn't mean that." And it's like, "All right, there's that." And then he's like, "Yeah, Jacoby Brissett outplayed Drake May all training camp." Well, no, actually, Drake May played better, but Jacoby's still our start. Just like this, a lot of this back and forth talk, and it's annoying. Just say you're going to be aggressive, like do what's best for the team and make your fan base happy at the same time.
Absolutely. And, this is one of those things I miss about Belichick. He didn't say much, but what he said was straightforward, and he stood by it.
Or didn't say anything. It's just like you don't have to share everything.
I'd almost rather have that.
Yeah.
Make up your mind, think, collect your thoughts, and say what you want to.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's interesting that the Patriots are in a odd situation of needing a lot and not having a lot to give.
Mm-hmm.
And there are definitely a lot of players that I feel like the Patriots, like, yeah, they'd have trade value, but I don't want to let go of any of those guys. Like a Barmore, a Godshaw, like those kinds of defenders could fetch a good haul, but for good reason, and I'd like to keep them.
Right. Yeah, it's easier to get rid of good players when you have a handful of them. We just don't.
Exactly. And so I do want the Patriots to be buyers of the trade deadline. But as far as they're selling, I'd like them to not do what they did with Uche and actually get some worth for the talent that they do have. It's going to be interesting to see what they actually end up doing.
Mm-hmm.
Let me give me 3 players that are on your lock list and let's take Drake May out of the equation. Besides Drake May, 3 players that absolutely need to be a Patriot next season and should not be part of trade talks.
Okay, so yeah, and I'll skip like the obvious like Christian Gonzalez and like
right
Keon White, but I feel like Demario Douglas, I'd still, even though like he's he's like 6th round pick, like he wasn't very highly sought after. Like he showed like really good chemistry that first start with Drake May. I love Demario. I think he's also really similar to Josh Downs, who was Drake May's teammate in college. and like they had a really good connection. So I think they're just like really similar player. So I'd say Demario Douglas. If we get rid of, for whatever reason, like Hunter Henry, I will be devastated. And then I think I've heard even like, was it last year Kyle Duggar was like a rumored like potential cut or trade piece?
Yeah. They were talking about him throughout the trade deadline.
Yeah, we can't get rid of Duggar either, especially with like Peppers out. Like he is such a vital part to that defense. Those are like three guys that kind of just jump out to me right away. I don't know if they're going to be part of trade talks, but those are like three guys who I think are just pretty like should be unlocked. But I mean, there's a couple more I think I would include, but I'm sure you'll probably talk on them too.
Yeah. And in the interest of adding more depth to the thoughts, I'm gonna not do any of the three that you've said. But I absolutely agree on Douglas. I feel like, especially because I don't think other teams are gonna see the work that we see in Douglas, and so he's probably not gonna get much. And in reality, we know that this is a starting level wide receiver in the league in the right offense in our offense, and I think he can be a real factor once we get things together. He already is. Love his agility. He's also just he's reliable. He runs great routes. He's a very hardworking guy. I love these stories of late round picks that ascend.
I really think he's just like the perfect just Patriot slot receiver that we've had just the last few years. Like, why can't he be like an Edelman or an Amendola, just like tough, gritty, just slot guy,
Yeah, absolutely. And with our receiver situation the way it is, Hunter Henry is the absolute like pulse of our offense. We take him away and there's not much left. There's really not much left.
Right.
I'm going to say Mondre. I know there are fumble issues and I know there are question marks here and there, but I also acknowledge the offensive line he's working with. I still see him as a franchise guy. I mean, it felt like he had a bad game, but he still had 2 rushing touchdowns and made some big runs and big moments. He's continued to be that workhorse in a challenged offense. I'm not going to say the same though about Antonio Gibson. I feel like it hasn't felt like an amazing scheme fit. I think Gibson's very talented and he's had some moments, but it just doesn't feel like a great scheme fit. So if you want to trade a running back piece, I would look there.
Yeah, it's a bummer that he's not using like the passing game more.
I'm going to say, even though he's not playing, we're seeing just how valuable he is by how much worse the interior defensive line looks without him. Christian Barmore. Whenever he has played, he has been tremendous. Hopefully, I don't know exactly what his injury situation is. I hope we can play him at some point, but I also don't. This is not a playoff season, so it's okay if we take our time. But he should remain a Patriot the way he's been playing.
Right.
Extending him should be a priority in the offseason. And as my third, I'm going to say Bryce Behringer. He is the best punter in the NFL, maybe of all time.
Unless we get a haul for him.
3 firsts and Tyreek Hill.
I'd maybe take that.
Even then, though, flipping the field, man, that's. But in all seriousness, I think I think there's a really good chance at this trajectory that he's going to be a Pro Bowler.
Maybe
he is really good.
Yeah.
He's been tremendous. It's especially after that season that we had to go through where we alternated between Jake Bailey and Michael Pilardi at punter. where like not only was our offense not good, we also couldn't flip the field. At least we can do one of the two. But a more serious third would be Mike Nwenu. He is our best and only good offensive lineman. Like, you take him away, and at this point, like, your offensive line is rivaled by like Oregon and Alabama and Georgia. Like, we're talking like high level college offensive line without Mike Nwenu. His ability to both play as a guard and a tackle, especially with the depth issues we're having, the fact that he can do both is big. And so he's definitely on that list. As far as players that I still don't understand are a Patriot yet, let's do another check-in on Adrian Phillips with the way the safeties have been playing, and ask the question of why he isn't a Patriot yet.
I don't know. He should be. He's been a Patriot before. Like, he knows the playbook. He knows the locker room. He knows everything. Like, and we need it.
The frustrating thing is he hasn't just been a Patriot. He's been a good Patriot. Like,
yeah.
I don't know why we cut him in the first place, but given that he's still out there ready for the taking, given that Jabril Peppers, if the allegations are proven true, he won't be on the team. And if the allegations are true and not proven true, I don't want him on the team. Take Adrian Phillips. It's a no-brainer to me. We don't even need to trade for him. So, these are the little things that make no sense. That a player that good is remaining unclaimed. As far as receivers that we can go get, and that's a challenging thing. It's we don't have the receiving talent to get a good package together for a receiver right now.
I know it'd have to be a high pick.
I'd be okay spending a second or third for T. I really would.
I would be so excited if we did that.
At some point, because we've spent seconds on wide receivers twice, and they've been busts. And so rather than taking another gamble with that second and taking another wide receiver who may or may not pan out, take someone who we know has panned out and would be a good scheme fit.
Exactly. And yeah, like you said, someone we know who would pan out. Like, don't send a second for a Mohamed Sanu like we've done in years past. Like, T. Higgins is worth the second. Like, don't overthink it. He could be a one in almost any other team, like, that doesn't have one of the top, like, 4 elite guys.
Yeah. Like we have a team where our ones are most people's threes. And we have a chance to immediately get a number one receiver. And it's just I'm sick of playing the draft gamble game. And wide receivers in the draft are just inherently difficult. It's just such a different game. The offenses are so drastically different. And you also have this element of like so many, like when you watch college highlights for a receiver, you see plays where they have like 5, 10, 15 yards of separation due to some blown coverage or the other. Instead of speculating and extrapolating what this player is going to be like when he's facing NFL level corners, take someone who has faced NFL level corners and done well with it.
And I mean, I think he would just kind of check a box that we don't really have in receiver. Like we got our shifty slot guy, and we have a lot of just like good possession receivers, but it's like, we don't have any like jump ball, like just big imposing receiver.
Yeah, we need someone who has that combination of speed, outrunning, and just reliability.
And like alpha mentality. I don't know, like a guy who can just if T. Higgins was catching any of those, like getting any of those targets that got dropped last week, I don't think he would have dropped any of those. Like those all would have been caught by him.
Absolutely. It's hard to say. It's hard to say if we will actually be able to get a package together good enough for T. Higgins, but we need to try.
And like I think the Bengals be stupid to not take something, you know, like if it may not be exactly what they think he's worth, but I feel like the odds are pretty high of him walking in free agency next year, right?
Yeah, and maybe that's where you go for him if you're New England, but but at the same time, there are a lot of places where we need to improve, a lot of places where we need to spend cap space. I mean, we need like 4 starting guards and 2 starting tackles. The draft isn't going to get us all of that. And so it would be nice if we were able to chip away at this during the trade deadline.
Right.
Too much to do, and we saw last year that when there's so much to do, you don't end up getting it done. So trade deadline coming up, Patriots coming off a win, but there's also football on Sunday.
Yeah.
I know it feels secondary, but what screams out to you when you look at this matchup against the Titans?
I just see Mason Rudolph as their starting quarterback being very enticing to, especially a defense that hasn't really caused many turnovers. I don't know how good the Titans O-line is, but I know if we can get some pressure on Rudolph, like that's going to be huge. Like, I don't think you have to know a lot of football to know that like Mason Rudolph is not one of the better quarterbacks in the league. So I think just any kind of pressure we can get on him and like any kind of, I don't know, hand in his face or something like that's going to be our guess our best chance of like beating him is just putting just some sort of pressure on him. You know, like you have these other guys, like if you pressure them, it's like not that big of a deal. Like they'll just get out of it and still complete plays like a Lamar, Josh Allen. Like you got to take him down. Like I feel like with Rudolph, it's just you got to at least get close to him, and that could be enough just to kind of throw him off his game.
Yeah, I'm fully with you there. I feel like this is going to be a very low-scoring game, especially if Brissett ends up being our quarterback. I feel like it's going to be a major trenches game. When you look, and the trenches are where I think Tennessee has the best chance of hurting us. And so, in an ideal world, we keep this game out of the trenches, air it out, make quick throws. I mean, and Brissett did it beautifully. May would do it even better. May has that ability to spread out the field with his running threat as well, and use all of his receivers. I think Tennessee's biggest threat to us though is our receivers. It's they don't have to do anything for that. Anyway, they have a good receiver trio of their own. I just don't think their quarterback situation will allow them to manifest it. Like Calvin Ridley, Tyler Boyd, Nick Westbrook, Ikine. It's a good. I'm not going to say it's a great receiver trio, but it's a solid receiver trio. But that defensive line group, Tamondre Sweat, Jeffrey Simmons, Kenneth Murray Jr. at linebacker, like they've got a lot of players that worry me. Ladarius Sneed at cornerback. It's a great defense. So we're going to have to be on our game offensively, but I don't think there's a lot they can do to hurt us offensively. I mean, I think they're going to have to rely a lot on the run. So our interior defensive line is going to have to be sharp. But we did a pretty good job at least compared to last week against a very good Jets rushing attack. So more of the same will be needed for sure. And so how do you think this is going to go?
I think this is one of my few wins I'll give us for the rest of the season. I think I said last week I don't think I'm going to give us many more wins, but I think, like you said, it's going to be a really low scoring game. I think what'll help us is the Titans are a bad team, and we just came off like a win, our second win of the season. So I know they're pumped, they're stoked, they probably want to go get another one. Like, there's some drive behind there. I think that'll hopefully give us some momentum. I think it's going to be a close game. I think it'll probably be like just a very boring, like 20-17 or 20-14, like just gross. I don't think we'll put up 25 again. That definitely if Brissett's starting. We might score a little bit more if May's in, but I think that's where I'm sitting at right now. I'd love to be proven wrong and score more points, but
yeah, I think it's going to be I definitely think it's going to be an ugly game. It's going to be very physical.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to come. I could see this coming down to the very final moments.
Mm-hmm.
I see the Patriots taking this one 20-17. I think. Well, I see them taking it 20-17 if they have May in there, and I see them losing. I see them losing by the same scoreline if Brissett's playing. I think it's just a subtle but important difference in the explosiveness that these two provide for their respective offenses.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that's completely fair. I don't think that's a stretch either way. I think very reliable or very possible outcomes. Yeah.
Regardless, we'll be here to break it all down. Probably have some new news from the trade deadline as well. Hopefully some good news this time, rather than we sold one of our best defenders for pocket change.
Yeah, let's hope that Behringer jersey you just got wasn't a waste.
Oh my God. If we trade Bryce Behringer, I'm finding a new team. That all these losses, the Brady, Belichick, all that, whatever. Don't take me from my man Bryce Behringer.
Let go, our beautiful Behringer.
Hopefully, beautiful Behringer's not on the field a lot Sunday.
Hopefully not. Hopefully, keep him rested for when we play some better teams.
Yeah. We'll be here to let you know how it all goes.
Oh, yeah.
See you next week, Patriots Nation.